Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for being here and spending this afternoon with us. I'm going to tell you a story. It's a simple story about a bike ride. When I was 19 years old, I rode my bicycle across the United States. I was with a group for Habitat Bicycle Challenge. We were 26 students with 4,000 miles for 9 weeks on our bikes. You have to have a really good playlist for that kind of mileage. Now, we were heading out, we were raising money for Habitat for Humanity to raise money to build houses and awareness for the cause. We didn't know how we'd raise the money, and we'd all gotten there for our own reasons. For some people, it was the challenge of riding 4,000 miles in a single summer. For other people, it was another adventure before the next stage in their life. And for me, it was Forrest Gump. I saw the movie when I was 8 years old, and I knew that I wanted to run across the country. And so when a friend of mine invited me to ride my bike across the country, I was in. I was like, sign me up, I'm so ready. I had no idea how we were going to do it, and I had no idea how we'd raise the money. But as a challenge, we came up, and the group raised over $250,000 for Habitat for Humanity, and there we were, standing with 4,000 miles ahead of us. Now, if you've ever been on a bike, you know that 3 things are true. 1 is you have to do the work. You're literally the passenger and the engine. 2 is it forces you to slow down and take in your environment. You don't go very fast on a bike. And 3 is you're vulnerable. It's just you and the bike. And when it's just you and a bicycle, there's a sense of intimacy, and you become available to what the world has to teach you. Now, my experience of the United States had been limited to what I call the parentheses. You know, I grew up in California, liked to travel to New York, and a couple family vacations there in Oklahoma, Texas, maybe a ski trip in Colorado. But what I expected in the middle of the country was what I had learned from popular media, right? Or what friends had told me, that the middle of the country was a unhealthy, ignorant, corn-fed place, and if they would just drink soy lattes, do yoga, and recycle their trash, they'd be saved from their inevitable doom. In truth, I knew very little about my country. In fact, almost nothing. And when I got on my bike and started riding, I was surprised. The people of America surprised me. You know, yeah, I ran into people who had elements of my stereotype, but overall, they surprised me. You know, we would spend days after riding where we'd actually be building houses with the community and then eating the most delicious home-cooked meals in the evening. Right? I think we had 2 weeks where we just ate straight casserole, but it was so delicious. And then the next morning, we'd get on our bike and we'd start riding. And we'd eat, and we'd ride, and we'd eat, and we'd ride in groups, or we'd ride by twos. Sometimes we'd even ride by ourselves. You know, I became friends with this woman named Rami, and we'd ride a lot together. And I remember I gathered a group of women together, and I was like, hey, you guys, let's all ride together. So on June 19th, 2005, Father's Day, there was a group of us, a single file line of 5 women, and we were riding. And Rami lost control of her bike, and she swerved into oncoming traffic. And she was hit by a car, and it launched her 60 feet, and she landed by a cornfield in Henderson County, Kentucky. I spun my bike around so fast to get to her, and when I got to her and we didn't find a pulse, my teammate and I turned her over and began CPR. It took forever for the ambulance to get there. But it was no sooner that they pronounced her dead on the side of the road. I lost it. I absolutely lost it. I was frustrated. It was my fault. I didn't know what to do. And we took a shuttle. You know, the community actually came together and shuttled us 100 miles to the next location. And I got there and I called my mom. And I called her. And in between sobs, I explained to her what had happened. And she said, Lauren, I need you to write down everything that has happened because your mind will play tricks on you and try to distort what has actually happened. And so I did that. I wrote down everything. And when I look back on that day, it's not cluttered with blame or shame or I should have done this or I did CPR wrong or I don't know what. It's so clear what happened. And as a team, we had a choice that day. The game could be over, or we could keep riding. And as a team, we made a choice. We made a choice to make her death matter. You know, we had the challenge of continuing riding nearly, I think it was a couple thousand miles left. We were only 3 weeks into the trip when this happened. And we chose to keep riding. So inch by inch and mile by mile with our team and with a higher vision, we kept riding. And sure enough, we went up through Kansas. Whoever said it was flat hasn't been there. Went up through Kansas, up thousands of feet above sea level, down off the Rockies, across the desert, down into the canyons, up out of the canyons until we reached our final destination of California. And when we got there, on the Golden Gate Bridge, 41 days after the accident, we're standing there on the Golden Gate Bridge. I took off the bracelet we had made out of Ramey's shirt, and I tied it to the bridge. And I looked back across the country we had just crossed. I was so proud of us. You know, we had done it. I couldn't have crossed the country by myself. And I think back now, I'm 26 years old, and I know that I'm going to get lost. Things are going to crash. Things are going to happen in my life. But my mom said something on the phone that day that I carry with me every day. She said, "Lauren, your heart breaks so the entire world can fit into it. Your heart breaks so the entire world can fit into it." And I know now that however I fall, wherever I get lost, and whenever I think my heart can't handle another loss, I can get back on my bike and keep riding. And my heart opens, and there's a new space that is created, and the entire world rushes in to fill me up. Thank you.